Every year, elite soldiers face a 24-kilometer march up Wales' brutal Pen y Fan, loaded with 25 kilograms and a rifle, forced to finish in just over 4 hours, in rain or snow. Created in 1952 to destroy the will of even the toughest recruits, this trial fails over 80%, and when Delta Force borrowed it, the event became so grueling that entire classes collapsed. But the hidden purpose behind this ordeal, the reason it terrifies even America's best, starts with a single question. What kind of mind survives a test designed to break the body? In 1952, Major John Woodhouse faced a problem no Army manual could solve. How to find men who would not just obey orders, but endure the kind of suffering that special operations demanded. The Second World War had shown that conventional training failed to prepare soldiers for the mental and physical punishment of behind-the-lines warfare. Woodhouse, tasked with rebuilding the Special Air Service after its wartime disbandment, set out to design a selection process that would filter out all but the most determined. The answer was a march across the Brecon Beacons, a landscape as unforgiving as any battlefield. The route he chose was simple but merciless. Candidates would climb Pen y Fan, the highest peak in southern Britain, at 886 meters, carrying a 25-kilogram rucksack and a rifle. They would descend the steep Jacob's Ladder, cross an ancient Roman road, and return the same way. The time limit was fixed at 4 hours and 10 minutes, no matter the weather. Rain, snow, or wind did not matter. The mountain would show who was ready. Woodhouse's blueprint was never about speed or brute strength alone. The goal was to strip away comfort, encouragement, and even hope, leaving only willpower. There would be no feedback, no support, and no indication of progress, just the relentless demand to keep moving. The fan dance became the gateway to the SAS, not because it was impossible, but because it was just barely possible for those who refused to give in. This was not an accident of geography or tradition. It was doctrine, written into the hills by a man who believed that endurance of body and mind was the only standard that mattered. Pen y Fan stands as the first barrier, but it is only the beginning. The fan dance is the gateway, yet beyond it lies the long drag, a march that stretches for 64 kilometers across the Brecon Beacons, with every candidate carrying a load of 25 kilograms and racing against a 20-hour cutoff. The numbers are simple, but they do not tell the full story. The gradients climb to 15%, the weather changes by the hour, and the terrain shifts from rocky slopes to boggy moors that swallow boots whole. Every segment of the route is designed to grind away at strength, resolve, and even sense of time. Landmarks along the way become milestones of suffering. The summit of Pen y Fan, the punishing descent of Jacob's Ladder, and the endless Roman road that seems to stretch forever. Each checkpoint is earned, not given. Candidates must navigate alone, maintaining a pace that leaves no room for rest. The clock is always running, and the mountain offers no mercy. Attrition is built into the process. More than 80% of those who begin SAS selection will never finish it. For Delta Force, the numbers are even more brutal. Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin recalls his selection class starting with 109 men. By the time the long walk, the American version of the long drag, arrived, only about 25 remained. After 8 hours of marching through the West Virginia mountains, exhaustion set in, but the finish line was still half a day away. These figures are not just statistics. They are proof that the test is designed to break bodies as well as minds. July 2013 brought a reckoning to the Brecon Beacons. Temperatures soared to 30 degrees Celsius as a group of Army reservists began the fan dance, each carrying nearly 27 kilograms on their backs. Among them were Lance Corporal Craig Roberts, Lance Corporal Edward Marr, and Corporal James Dunsby. By the end of the march, all three had collapsed from exertional heat illness. Despite the seriousness of their condition, the response was slow. Roberts and Marr died that day. Dunsby fought for his life in hospital but died 2 weeks later. A 2015 inquest laid responsibility squarely at the feet of the military chain of command. The coroner found that neglect, poor risk assessment, inadequate monitoring, and a lack of basic precautions had turned a test of endurance into a fatal ordeal. The verdict forced the Ministry of Defense to confront the human cost of its doctrine. Reforms followed, new weather rules, more route marshals, mandatory hot food stations, and the power to postpone marches when conditions became extreme. Even so, the mountain's toll did not end there. In July 2016, Corporal Joshua Hoole collapsed and died just 400 meters from the finish of a separate fitness test, again in the heat. These names are now part of the mountain story, a reminder that the price of endurance can be measured in lives lost as well as lives changed. Isolation is not a byproduct of the fan dance. It is the point. Candidates set out alone, forbidden to march together, with no encouragement from the cadre and no hint of how they are performing. There is only the next checkpoint, the weight on their back, and the relentless terrain. Every step is a private argument between body and mind, with no external voice to break the silence. This design mimics the reality of special operations, missions deep behind enemy lines where support is an illusion and the only certainty is the need to keep moving. The value of this approach is not theoretical. Andy McNabb, a decorated SAS soldier, faced a trek of 300 kilometers across the Iraqi desert after his patrol was compromised during the Gulf War. He credited the mental endurance forged on the hills of Wales for his survival, an ability to keep going when every rational part of him screamed to stop. The fan dance and its American cousin, the long walk, are engineered to reveal that rare quality. No feedback, no camaraderie, no shortcuts, just a test of whether a candidate will put one foot in front of the other when the finish line is nowhere in sight. The mountain does not measure strength or speed, it measures the refusal to quit in absolute solitude. This is why the drill endures, and why its lessons echo far beyond the hills of the Brecon Beacons. The fan dance did not remain confined to the hills of Wales. Over the decades, its doctrine has spread across borders through exchange programs that link the world's most elite special operations units. SAS operators serve tours with Delta Force, bringing their approach to endurance and mental resilience into the heart of American selection. In return, Delta operators rotated through the SAS, absorbing the lessons of the Brecon Beacons firsthand. These exchanges are not ceremonial. They are working assignments where techniques, standards, and even stories are traded in the field. Members of SEAL Team 6 have completed rotations with the Special Boat Service, and joint training with Australian SAS and Canadian JTF-2 has cemented the loaded march as a global benchmark. Reports circulate among veterans about American Rangers excelling on marches like the fan dance, though official records of full SAS selection graduates remain elusive. What is clear is that the logic of the fan dance, endure, adapt, never quit, now shapes the training of special forces far beyond the United Kingdom. The fan dance has moved beyond its origins in military selection to become a proving ground for civilians drawn to its reputation. Since 2013, Avalanche Endurance Events has organized biannual races over the same 24-kilometer course used by the SAS, starting at the old red phone box at Story Arms. Participants face the same climb up Penly Fan, the same descent down Jacob's Ladder, and the same relentless demand for endurance. Most who sign up have trained for months, and about 95% reach the finish. The high completion rate reflects a key difference. Unlike raw military recruits, civilian entrants are self-selected and prepared for the challenge. For those seeking an even greater test, the Woodhouse edition recreates the original post-war route, requiring 3 ascents of Penly Fan instead of 2. These events keep the fan dance spirit alive, inviting anyone willing to measure themselves against the mountain to do so, not for a beret, but for the knowledge of what it takes to finish what others cannot. Today, the fan dance and its descendants still break more than 80% of elite candidates, proof that the mind's limits shape the tip of the spear. As the world's threats evolve, one truth remains: the mountain doesn't bend. It only reveals who endures. Let me know your thoughts below.